Sell me to the fattest man here, the alien girl begged. Her sister was starved. The freighter captain logged the station's approach in his manifest, voice droning over the intercom as Iron Haven loomed on the view screen. Ring spinning slow around a dim red dwarf star, 4.2 light-years out from Sol's Pull. Down on level 7, a dockhand cursed under his breath while patching a coolant leak. Neon signs sputtering overhead in the residential maze, pipes dripping steady on degraded walkways. He wiped his hands on a rag, glancing at the wedged spot between a pawn shop cluttered with salvage parts and a hydroponic stall slinging wilted greens. Hale's quiet hour, door plain but for that amber bulb glowing constant, never flickering out even in power dips. Owen Hale stood behind the counter, cloth in hand, swiping at a glass where condensation beads floated lazy in the low G, drifting like forgotten flakes. A smuggler at the end nursed his synth beer, muttering about a bad run. A dockhand rubbed calloused palms, complaining low to a syndicate runner about delayed pays. The runner leaned in, voice hushed. Heard Garnet's pushing again. Better watch backs. But eyes flicked to the counter, etch. No fighting here. Carved deep, the rule hanging unspoken as a regular raised his mug careful. No spills, no sparks. Just then, two runners at a corner table erupted over a cargo split, fists flying sudden, chairs scraping back as one grabbed the other's collar. You skimmed my share, you cheat. The room froze mid-breath. Owen vaulted the counter fluid, wedging between them. Hands up but voice level. Cool it. Now. The fighters paused, heaving, then deflated under his gaze, muttering sorries before gathering gear and slinking out. No second chances, the rule biting hard. The door hissed open moments later, draft pulling in recycled chill mixed with vent grime. Lyra Quinn stumbled through, arms slung around her little sister Nova. 8 years old, both caked in oil streaks and dust from 3 days, hunkered in cargo ducts. Nova whispered urgent to Lyra as they crossed the threshold. Sis, hold on, we're safe now, I think. But memories flashed in Lyra's wince, their parents' freighter venting plasma wild over the asteroid belt, hull shredding in a flash that left alarms cutting mid-sentence, the girls scrambling vents to escape the debris field. Nova's legs buckled halfway across the deck, knees hitting soft with a thud. She crawled desperate to a grizzled miner hunched over his mug, tugging his sleeve with grubby fingers. Mister, I'll do anything. Just get meds for my sister. Please. Her voice cracked tiny, eyes pleading wide. The miner fumbled for credits, grumbling. Kid. All right, how much? But Owen's hand clamped his wrist firm, credits hovering mid-float. Not here. We help different. The miner pulled back, muttering no fuss as Owen scooped Lyra up easy, her weight light in the low G, carrying her to the back room. He sealed her into the med pod, hatch hissing shut, diagnostics lighting her skin. Red lines mapping internal bleeds, ribs fractured sharp. Radiation traces faint from a reactor core spiked deliberate. The pod hummed to life, injectors whispering as Owen watched the crawl, arms crossed tight. Lyra's breaths ragged, fever burning her skin clammy. A regular peeked in curious. Bad shape from that belt blast? Owen nodded once. Sabotage, keep it quiet. Out front, Nova curled on a supply crate, knees to chest, fingers white around a cracked data shard. Dad's final ping locked inside, codes scrambled useless. She stared at it, rocking slight, the bar's murmur dipping as patrons glanced away respectful. A smuggler sliding her a fizz soda without ask. Hang in, kid. Pod's good. Owen emerged with 2 steaming bowls of synthetic broth, vapor curling slow. He set one before Nova. Eat. It'll warm ya. She dove in frantic, spoon clanging hungry, Lyra still under in the pod, the room's chatter fading to hushed nods. A dockhand whispering to his mate. Poor things, belt wrecks are brutal. A regular dockhand, jacks with grease under nails, leaned close during the quiet lull. Owen, run their tags through customs, flag any heat or bounties? Owen poured a water, shaking head firm. No need. Past Sperry here. That's the deal. Identities stay out. Jax nodded, backing off with a grunt, but glanced back thoughtful. Dawn's cycle warmed the light's gradual, blue shifting yellow. Lyra's lids fluttered in the pod, gaze landing on Owen's knuckles as he checked readouts, scars mapping old stories white against skin. You? Why us? We're nobody. Just vent rats now. She pushed up weak, voice raspy from the ducts. Owen paused the scan, meeting her eyes steady. Somebody has to start somewhere. Universe kicks enough without us adding. Night cycle dropped again. Station rumble, vibrating walls like a lullaby. Amber bulb outside holding glow against flickering neon beyond. The Quinn sisters shared the spare cot for the first time in weeks, Nova's breaths evening against Lyra's side. No alarms blaring, no bulkheads groaning threats, just the quiet hold under one roof. Nova mumbled half asleep. Sis, no more running? Lyra pulled the blanket tighter. For tonight? Yeah. Lyra lay staring ceiling cracks, weaving like orbits, freighter flashes replaying, jolt, cut cries, void yawning. Gratitude stirred warm, glancing Owen closing up, cloth gliding counter methodical, his calm an anchor in the drift. Shift blurred next, Owen guiding Lyra basics. Mixes floating right in low G, seal points for air thins. Like this. Floats in easy. Nova darted edges, fingers probing wires, curiosity sparking against shadows in her eyes. Patrons noted shift, but held back, rule guardians silent. Owen caught Nova eyeing Carve, brow furrowed. That keeps bad out? Mostly order and chaos. He ruffled her hair light, smile weary. Cycles merge, Lyra mending increments, aches dulling resolve kindling. Nova pride jukebox panel, servos whining, fixes small win against loss. Watch, I got it. Minor returned no grudge, credits for round easing tension. To new faces, vents kinder next. Chatters swelled, rule threading bond. Lyra watched Owen quell another spat, runners, shares rising, gaze cooling to sorries. Fists down, words up. Dark-wrapped level, lights fading, amber pulsed soft. Sisters slumbered, shard under Nova's head talisman. Outside shades waited, grit clinging, blast whisper faint. Owen lingered close, staring Carve, aches stirring. One day, one hold, dawn uncertain. Dawn. Nova shifted dreams, shard dim. Lyra adjusted cover, bond, fierce unspoken. Station turned, red dwarf distant. Quiet clung, hopes woven. Lyra balanced a tray of fizzing gravity drops, weaving through the low G drift as patrons snagged them midair. Her grip had firmed up over the shifts, noticing how a slow pour on a tense dockhands drink bought a grin instead of a glare. One slow evening, a burly loader barked at a server bot for a delayed refill, his boot kicking the machine hard enough to send it spinning. Come on, tin can, move! Lyra slid in smooth, topping his mug from the tap. Easy there, this one's on me. Bot's just glitchy. The loader huffed but took the drink, tension leaking out like vented air. She watched him settle back, chatting with his crew about a botched haul, the moment passing like steam from a fresh brew. Nova scampered under tables, spotting the jukebox hiccup on a warped melody, speakers crackling static. She popped the access hatch with a spoon handle, poking at dusty motors until the tune flowed clean again. Gotcha, she yelped, popping up as a smuggler flipped her a candy stick. Kid's a wizard. Free sodas for life. Grins spread wary but real, Nova pocketing fixes like treasures. Later, she tackled a flickering overhead panel, climbing a stool to swap a burnt relay, the light steadying to cheers. See? Easy when you know the wires. A dockhand ruffled her hair, slipping her a toolkit scrap. Owen scratched a fresh line on the chalkboard by the counter etch. 312 days straight, no scraps. He refreshed it nightly, wiping clean only for real trouble. It proved itself when two garnet-crowned goons shoved through the door, hauling a wiry debtor who kicked futile in their hold. Payday, runt, outside, the bigger one growled, dragging him past stools. Glasses clinked nervous, room holding breath. Patrons edged back, a few fingers twitching near hidden holds, but no one moved. Owen planted himself center, arms loose. Drop him, now! The goons snarled, but Owen didn't budge. No hauling folks out. Settle debts here or walk empty. That's how it stays peaceful. The debtor rummaged pockets frantic, credits tumbling to the floor in floating arcs. Goons snatched them, released their grip with a final shove, and backed out cursing low. Owen steadied the guy, slid him a stool. Drink water. Breathe. The man gulped it down, whispering thanks as the room eased back to murmurs. Owen chalked, nothing changed, the board a silent witness. Lyra refilled a cluster later, catching hushed talk in a dim booth. Marcus Vale's crew muscling into the old Quinn Helium-3 ops, refineries churning under new flags, roots sealed tight. Her pour faltered, liquid globbing over the rim, the name punching old wounds fresh. She mopped it quick, but the words stuck, echoing her parents' last comms about new partners turning sour. Nova doodled during downtime, napkins filling with duck layouts, turns she'd navigated blind, labeled with kid scrawls like slippery drop and echo hall. She shoved one at Owen while he inventoried bottles. He folded it careful, eyes sharpening on the details, paths that could hide or hunt. You mapped all this? In the dark? Nova nodded, proud. Yeah, vents are like puzzles. Fun ones. Sable Rook nursed her corner, coat dark as void, whiskey level dropping glacial. Owen freshened it silent. She tipped her head slight, acknowledgement in the nod. One cycle she lingered as others filed out, tracing a finger on the glass. Heard Vale's pushing harder. Refineries ain't enough. Owen wiped the spot beside her. Let him push. Walls hold. Lyra nabbed him mid-stock, rag twisting in her hands. Owen, stations everywhere scan IDs at entry. Why skip it here? He stacked crates, shrugging easy. Scans drag baggage in. Bounties, feuds, ghosts. Rule locks that out. Keeps us all breathing free. She nodded slow, thinking of her own tags, buried deep in a vent stash. Spilled ale sparked next, sloshing across a table. Two runners leaping up, accusations flying. You blind or just clumsy? One snapped, knuckles whitening. Owen materialized, palm flat on the table. Wipe it, sorries all around. Or both, by the house, around. Rags appeared quick, laughs diffusing the heat. Mess mopped in floating blobs. One runner clapped the other's back. My bad. Next one's on me. No marks on the board. A quieter scuffle brewed later. A smuggler accusing another of skimmed cargo. Voices climbing as hands hovered near belts. Lyra stepped in this time, sliding fresh drinks between them. Talk it out over these. No need for more. They paused, took the glasses, hashing details low until a deal struck, hands shaking uneasy but firm. Close crept in, lights softening to warm glows. Sisters ascended to the upper cot, Nova's fingers lacing Lyra's as they nestled. This place, it feels kind of safe, right? Nova whispered, lids drooping. Lyra pulled her closer. Safer than vents. Sleep tight. Station vibrations rocked them gentle. Trust rooting shallow but growing, though Vale's shadow from those whispers coiled persistent in the recycler's hum. Lyra lay awake longer, staring at the low ceiling, refinery logs flashing in her mind. Numbers her dad juggled, now Vale's. Owen secured the door, chalking 314 deliberate. He unfolded Nova's napkin map under dim light, tracing lines with a finger, committing curves to memory. Sable paused at exit, voice a thread. Wind shifting, smells like storm. Owen met her eyes. We weather it. Always have. She slipped out, coat swirling. Lyra drilled mixes alone after. Thoughts on lost refineries fueling a quiet burn, practicing until pores floated perfect. Nova salvaged a dead scanner from scraps, coaxing it to beep alive. Screen flickering, station schematics. Look, whole level. Crowd flowed, rule bending but never snapping. A glare cooled by a shared laugh, a deal hashed verbal over counters. A vet patron spun a yarn over rounds. How Owen once faced a riot squad with just words, days stacking clean. Stood there like a bulkhead. They blinked first, Lyra absorbed, piecing the man's steel. Nova patched a flickering sign. Light steady now. earning claps. Goons steered clear, but corridor stairs lingered longer, figures pausing outside the amber glow. Owen clocked them, pouring unflinched, hand near the stun baton hidden low. Sable's sleeve rode once during a reach, revealing a faded wrist mark. Crown ink, long scarred over, her eyes meeting Owen's brief. Cycles wove seamless, sisters meshing like retrofitted parts. Lyra's shakes vanished full, Nova's drawing stacking high in a corner crate. Bar pulsed alive, undercurrents tugging. Vale mentions rising in hushed tones, refineries haunting chats like ghosts in the vents. Owen righted a wobble stool, tally in mind. 3 solid, pressure building subtle. Nova burrowed deep in sleep, dreaming tinkers. Lyra guarded the door with her gaze, anchored yet alert, the name Vale a thorn twisting deeper. Night stacked quiet, amber steadfast. Patrons lingering later as if sensing change. But hinges groaned one entry heavier, a polished boot stepping through deliberate, suit crisp against the scuffs. Eyes scanning like ownership claimed. The door's hydraulic whisper cut through the bar's low hum, admitting a figure whose presence sucked the warmth from the air recyclers. Marcus Vale entered with 2 bodyguards at his flanks, their armored silhouettes like silent drones, suits tailored sharp against the scuffed panels and floating dust motes. Patrons shifted uneasy, a smuggler mid-story trailing off as Vale's boots clicked deliberate across the deck. His stride owning the space, shoulders squared with the confidence of someone used to doors opening for him. He claimed the counter's center stool, eyes scanning the room like a targeting array, locking on. A faint curl of satisfaction at the way conversations faltered. Owen paused his wipe down, cloth hovering over a glass, his jaw tightening subtle under the stubble, as old instincts flared. Lyra, polishing a row of tumblers nearby, felt her rhythm falter. The man's gaze pinned her, recognition blooming cold in her gut, her fingers whitening around the rag until it bunched like a fist. Nova, elbow deep in the jukebox's wiring, froze with a wire stripper in hand, her small frame tensing rigid, breath catching sharp as memories flooded back. That face from the freighter's final hollow, smirking before the link cut. She dropped low behind the panel, hands trembling over the tools. Vale leaned in slight, voice smooth as oiled machinery. Single malt, if you have it real. Owen poured without a word, amber liquid swirling slow in the glass, but his free hand clenched below the counter, knuckles popping faint. Vale took it, swirled once, then fixed on Lyra again. His lips curved thin, familiar from old family hollows, but twisted now, lethal as a hidden blade, the smile deepening as he watched her flinch. Well, look at you, all grown up. The bar's chatter evaporated. A dockhand's laugh died mid-note, the jukebox glitching to static before resuming faint. Patrons' hands stilled on mugs, bodies leaning away instinctive. Nova dropped her tool with a clink that echoed loud, scooting back into shadow, whispering to herself through chattering teeth. That's him, the bad one. Lyra's polished rag slipped, glass clinking loud in the hush, her chest rising fast as panic clawed up. Vale set his drink down, fishing a small hollow cube from his inner pocket. He thumbed it active, projection flickering to life above the counter. Grainy footage of the Quinn freighter. Hull plates buckling as plasma vents erupted in slow-motion fury. Countdown to the blast ticking merciless. Lyra's knees buckled slight, one hand shooting to the counter for support. Eyes locked on the looping doom, tears welling unbidden, blurring the flames. Remember this? Your parents' little mishap. He leaned closer to Lyra, his own eyes gleaming with a dark relish. Family business, dear niece. Should stay in the family, don't you think? The words landed heavy, gravity amps cranked up in the room. Patrons froze mid-sip, a runner's hand freezing halfway to his belt. Owen's hand drifted under the counter, fingers brushing the stun baton's grip tape. Ready but not closing yet, his breath steadying, forced as fury simmered behind calm eyes. The chalkboard tally mocked from the wall. 313 days of fragile peace now feeling like a chain. Drink up, Vale, then go. Owen's tone stayed even, but his stance shifted wider, blocking line to the sisters, muscles coiling under his shirt. Sable Rook, perched in her dim corner, let her fingers tap once on her whiskey glass. Sharp, the only break in the silence, her posture straightening imperceptibly, a predator sensing blood. Vale's head turned slow, eyes narrowing on her, a flicker of unease crossing his features before the smile masked it. Ah, Rook. Still lurking, I see. Her response came as another tap, deliberate, her free hand slipping casual into her coat pocket. Lyra stepped forward then, voice cracking through the tension, her fists balling at her sides as rage overrode the fear. You murdered them for those stupid trade routes. The accusation echoed off the bulkheads, a few patrons murmuring agreement low, shifting supportive. Nova peeked out, eyes wide and glistening, clutching her data shard like a shield, small body shaking as she latched onto Lyra's leg for anchor. Vale chuckled soft, deactivating the hollow with a flick, but his chuckle held a brittle edge as Lyra's words hit home. Murder? No, no. I just inherited what they couldn't hold. Debts pile up out here, you know. Your mother, my sister, she understood that. Right up to the end. He sipped again, eyes dancing over Lyra's fury, but his grip on the glass tightened fractionally. And little Nova, growing so fast, shame if something interrupted that. Nova whimpered audible, burying her face in Lyra's apron, shoulders heaving with suppressed sobs. Owen's grip tightened on the baton handle, hidden from view, veins standing out on his forearm. Threats don't fly here, Vale. Finish and leave. A bodyguard shifted, hand dipping into his coat, plasma pistol outline clear, his stance aggressive. The bar tensed further, a smuggler easing toward the door, whispering to his partner while wiping sweat from his brow. This ain't our fight. Let's bail. Others followed suit, stools scraping as fear propelled them out. Vale set his empty glass down deliberate, credits scattering across the counter in low G arcs. Overpayment, a taunt. But his fingers lingered a beat too long on the rim, betraying a flicker of impatience. Oh, hail. Always the peacemaker. But peace? That's just violence on pause. He rose fluid, bodyguards mirroring, but Lyra glared, stepping protectively in front of Nova, her body a shield trembling with defiance. Stay away from us. You hear me? Vale paused at the door, turning back with that same smile, though his eyes darted once to the emptying room, calculating losses. Unfinished business waits for no one. See you soon. Family. The door sealed behind them, the bar exhaling collective, mugs clinking back down shakily, murmurs rising like released pressure, but hands still trembled on handles. The air hung metallic now, charged with aftertaste of threat, patrons exchanging wide-eyed glances. Owen flipped the lock early, amber bulb dimming outside as corridor lights flickered, his shoulders sagging a fraction once alone. He herded the last patrons out gentle, then pulled the sisters into the back room, away from windows, his arm brushing Lyra's reassuring as he guided. Lyra paced the small space, hands fisting and unfisting, boots thudding soft. He's our uncle. Our own blood. How could he? She cut off, slamming a palm on the MedPod console, the impact rattling tools. Nova huddled on a crate, data shard in lap, knees drawn up tight as tears carved paths through lingering grime. He looked at me like I was nothing. Owen knelt to her level, handing her a fizz soda, his large hand steadying her small shaking one. You're everything, kid. He won't touch you. Sable slipped in through the service hatch unannounced, coat whispering, her face set hard, jaw clenched, eyes scanning for threats. Vale's circling closer, saw his men post up outside. Owen nodded, pouring her a fresh whiskey, his pores steady but knuckles still white. Figured, but we don't break the rule, not yet. Lyra spun on him, eyes blazing wet. The rule? He just waltzed in and threatened us. We need to fight back. Owen met her eyes steady, placing a calming hand on her shoulder. She shrugged it off at first, then leaned in, weary. We will, but smart. Tomorrow, we count different. How loud truth hits. They gathered around the console, Lyra activating her shard. Partial decrypt showing refinery logs. Vale's signatures buried deep, her finger jabbing the screen accusatory. Nova pointed at a line, wiping her nose with a sleeve. That's Dad's code. See? Sable leaned in, her scar peeking as she adjusted her sleeve, resolve etching deeper lines. Proof. But we need more. Owen dimmed the lights, station rumble underscoring the plan's birth, his back to the wall as if guarding. Outside, shadows lingered in corridors, but the door held sealed. The tally stayed 313, but the bar felt smaller now, walls closing in with unspoken promises. Lyra's pacing slowed to determined strides, Nova's sobs easing to sniffles as she clutched the soda like a lifeline. Nova sipped her soda slow, bubbles popping faint against her quiet hiccups. Lyra traced the logs, anger hardening to resolve, her breaths deepening purposeful. Sable vanished as quiet as she came, leaving her glass right side up this time, ready for next round, her departure swift, but shoulders squared for war. Owen watched the door, baton now in hand under the counter, grip relaxed but ready. Truth's countdown started silent, heavier than any plasma burst, the sisters' hands finding each other in the dim. Bond forged tighter in the fear's wake. Owen ducked through the service hatch into the maintenance tunnels, boots scraping on grated flooring, slick with condensation. The dim red strips overhead buzzed faint, casting long shadows on humming conduits. Sable leaned against a coolant pipe ahead, arms crossed tight, her coat hanging open just enough to show the outline of a concealed blade. She pushed off the wall as he neared, pulling a slim data shard from her pocket and slapping it into his hand. Her fingers brushing his a beat longer, eyes locking with a sharp nod that carried the weight of shared risks. Vale's dirty ledger, slave runs, triplicate logs, dates, dock bays, even the bribe splits. Owen turned the shard over, thumb tracing its edge, his brow creasing as the implications sank in. This ties him direct? Sable's lips thinned. Direct enough to burn him, but we need the rest. Back in the storeroom later that cycle, Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor, cracked terminal balanced on her knees, father's data shard plugged in glowing. The decrypt bar inched forward stubborn, her fingers hovering ready to input overrides. She muttered under her breath, leaning closer as cords finally unlocked. Buried ledgers in Iron Haven's archives flashing on screen. Got it. Dad hid this deep. Public access, but layered. She scrolled frantic, eyes widening at transaction trails, then slammed a fist gentle on the deck, in triumph mixed with old grief. Nova perched on the counter during a quiet patch, her toy drone disassembled in pieces around her. Wires, cams, a tiny propeller, spinning test. She soldered a skim lens to the frame careful, tongue out in focus, then powered it up with a flick. The drone lifted wobbly at first, then steady, hovering as she guided it to a vent slit. Go peek, little guy. Footage streamed back to her pad. Vale's enforcers in a lower bay, pinning a dock worker to crates, fists demanding credits. Nova's face twisted, horror flashing to anger, her small hand gripping the controller until it creaked. They're just like the ones who came for us. Look, bruises. She zoomed in, replaying, her breast quickening as a resolve set in her jaw. Patrons fed the fire subtle during shifts. A smuggler nursed his ale slow, then slid a folded napkin under the mug as Owen collected it, dock numbers scrawled inside. Bay 9, last cycle, heavy crates, no manifest. Owen pocketed it smooth, pouring a refill free. Appreciate the eyes. Later, a mechanic fiddled with a loose stool, leaning in whisper while tightening bolts. Bribe was 500 creds per guard. Vale's cut direct. His hands shook slight handing over a chit, relief flooding his face when Owen clasped his arm brief. Safe here, always. Lyra hunkered in the back with scrap foil stacks, stylus scratching as she forged council petitions. Hands starting shaky but steadying line by line, mimicking official seals. She held one up to the light, squinting critical, then nodded satisfied when the scanner beeped green. This one's solid. Gets us on the docket without flags. Owen watched from the doorway, arms crossed. How many more? 3. Enough to force a hearing. She flexed her cramped fingers, determination etching deeper. Sable slipped in at midnight again, the bar empty and lights low. She rolled her sleeve deliberate, exposing the wrist scar. Garnet crown brand, puckered and old, her finger tracing it like reopening a wound. Crown marked me years back. Veil was the blade behind it. Debts like this, they don't fade. Her voice cracked faint on the last, eyes distant a moment before snapping back hard. Owen poured her whiskey without asking. Then we collect. Owen spread a napkin on the counter mid-plan. Sketching rough. Council dais, upload points, broadcast nodes. He tapped each with the stylus. A quiet hour protocol. No shots, just exposure. Council next week. Lyra leaned over, adding archive links. I tie in Dad's cords here. Nova piped from her drone setup. And my feeds loop live. Sable nodded approval, adding evasion routes. Nova tugged Owen's sleeve later, drone buzzing idle nearby. Owen, if the plan flops, what happens to us? Her eyes searched his, lower lip worried between teeth. He crouched level, hand on her shoulder warm. Flops? Then everything breaks. The rule, us. But with this crew, won't happen. She hugged him sudden, small arms tight, then pulled back with a determined grin. False alarm struck dawn cycle. Veil's crew clustering outside, silhouettes under corridor neons, one testing the door handle rattle. Inside, patrons froze mid-sip, a glass slipping to float slow. Owen strode to the entrance, stance wide, staring through the viewport until the group backed off muttering. The chalk advancing to 313 with a fresh mark, tension easing as the door held. A regular wiped his brow. Heart was pounding. Thought it was over. Owen reset a stool. Not today. Midnight sessions became ritual. The 4 huddled in the dark bar, terminals casting blue glows on faces. Owen laid shards out like evidence tiles. Cross-matched this bribe with Nova's feed. Sable inputted fast. Matches. Slave count, 47 last run. Lyra patched cords. Archives confirm ownership flip. Post-explosion. Nova's drone piped new clips, her gasp at each brutality fueling tweaks. Got audio now, hear them threaten. Tips flowed steady, a whisper over a spill cleanup, a chit during a toast. Owen compiled, cross-referencing. Sable scouted tunnels, returning with more shards, her steps purposeful. Lyra's forges piled, tested flawless. Nova's maps expanded, vents charted precise. Alarms probed twice more, shadows lingering longer, retreating under glares. The tally hitting 314, 315, each hold a small victory. One probe, a patron nearly panicked, voice rising until Lyra calmed with a refill and quiet words. Breathe, we're solid. The protocol built layer on layer. Upload synced, broadcast prepped, evidence linked ironclad. Nova flew test runs in vents, drones silent. Lyra submitted a forge anonymous. Owen pocketed final tips. Plan etched deep. Shadows thickened corridors, but the bar pulsed with quiet fire. Owen locked final. Chalk at 316. Group parted. Sable to dark. Sisters to cot linking hands. Resolve hung thick. Truth arming, slow but sure. Nova's drone whirred through the tight vent shafts, its tiny cam dipping into a junction box where comm cables knotted messy. The signal snagged mid-scan. A burst of Veil's voice, clipped and cold, leaking from a guard's earpiece. Snatch the kid at cargo offload. Use her to pull the sister out. No mess, no witnesses. Nova's fingers froze on the controller, the pad trembling in her lap as the words replayed automatic. Her breath hitched sharp, eyes widening huge, a small gasp escaping as she bolted upright. Drone crashing, forgotten to the counter. She burst into the back room, pad thrust forward, shaking. Owen, it's him! Listen, he's gonna take me! Owen snatched it, replaying the clip once, his face hardening stone. jaw clenching so tight a muscle jumped, knuckles whitening as he gripped the device like it burned. That bastard! Over my dead bulkhead! Lyra crowded in, arms slinging around Nova protective, her own pulse racing visible in her throat. Play it again. Oh, stars, Nova. She pulled her sister tighter, body heat clashing with the chill dread, tears pricking unbidden but blinked back fierce. Owen slammed the pad down, voice low thunder. Protocol now. No waiting. He jerked his chin at Sable, who was already hunched over her wrist rig in the corner, fingers blurring as she doctored manifests, slapping shackle overlays on Vale's hauler logs. Uploading. Forged but flawless. Shackled miners, full cargo holds. Her eyes flicked up, a grim satisfaction cracking her mask. Let the feeds feast. Owen nodded sharp. Hit every channel. Make it stick. Lyra lunged for her terminal, keys clacking frantic under fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. She bounced the anonymous ping through layered proxies, message drafting quick. Council emergency session, 48 hours. Bring proof. Bring conscience. Sending, come on, root clean. Hit enter, the blip vanishing into the net. Her exhale ragged, hands rubbing arms as if chasing goose flesh. If this works, the whole station sees him. Nova clung to her side, voice small but steadying. They'll hate him like we do. Right? Lyra forced a nod, hugging fiercer. They will, kid. Promise. The ping rippled out like a shock wave. Dock workers pausing mid-crate lift, pads beeping in pockets during smoke breaks. One loader forwarded it chain, muttering to his crew. Slaves on Vale's runs, shackles and all. Check this. Whispers turned to heated clusters in noodle lines and bay corners, half the lower levels alive within hours. Faces twisting disgust, fists clenching as manifests circulated viral. A mechanic replayed a dock hollow, voice rising. My cousin vanished on one of those routes. This proof? Nods spread, anger knitting the ring tight. Door crashed open mid-evening rush, Vale barreling in with 6 guards, armor rattling, pistols glinting holstered, but hands itching. Patrons bolted to walls, drinks abandoned drifting. Vale's gaze speared the sisters, face flushed crimson. Quinn girls, now! Hale, step aside! Owen planted center counter, palms flat visible, but his stance rooted like welded plating, shoulders squared, eyes locked unblinking. Not happening. Back out. Lyra shoved Nova behind her, heart hammering audible. You touch her, you die here. Chalkboard read 314 bold. Vale snarled, swinging pistol butt savage. Board exploding in glass rain, shards floating lazy but sharp. Gas ripped the room, a patron ducking instinctive. But no draws, tension coiling wire tight. Owen's eyes tracked the mess, breath steady forced, but veins throbbed in his neck. Board breaks, rule doesn't. Sable stepped from gloom then, rig wrist glowing, voice cutting ice. One move, and Ironhaven sees everything. Your slaves, your orders. Live feed. Vale froze mid-stride, guards halting awkward. His hand twitched on the pistol, sweat beading despite the chill, eyes darting as the threat sank. You bluff. Rook. Sable's smile was knife-thin. Try me. Uploads queued. He scanned frantic. Patrons closing ranks silent, dockhands shoulder to shoulder with runners. Faces hard in solidarity. A loader crossed arms defiant. Not in here, Vale. Guards shifted uneasy, boots scraping retreat inches. Vale's face twisted uglier, but hesitation won, backing slow, pistol waving empty. This ain't over. Burn it all next time. Door sealed, bar exhaling collective, shaking hands, grabbing floating shards, murmurs swelling relief, mixed rage. Owen chalked 0 on a fresh board slow, hand steady now. Rule held, barely. Lyra rushed Nova, crushing her in arms. Hug fierce, the girl squeaking but burrowing deep, tears soaking Lyra's shirt. I got you. Always. Nova muffled back. He was so close. Scared me. Owen poured sodas 3, sliding them over clinking. No talk needed, just the fizz-cutting silence, eyes locking over glasses as storm rage built outside, their choice carved clear. Sable checked her rig, beeps confirming spreads. Manifests everywhere, councils flooded requests. Patrons clapped backs grateful, one whispering, "Stood with you, count on us." Lyra wiped tears angry, Nova sipping soda slow, fear ebbing to fire. Owen swept glass, each stroke deliberate, tally zero but spirit forged hotter. Feeds looped the standoff anonymous, whispers turning roars and bays. Nova reinforced her drone quiet, hands steadier. Lyra cued backups, resolve iron. Sable vanished scouting, returning nod. They're rattled. Good. One patron toasted low. To the wall we built. Glasses rose, shaky but sure. The protocol thrummed alive. Truth's blade sharpened, battlefield set in the hold's echo. Iron Haven's central atrium thrummed with a raw energy that hummed through the deck plating, floodlights casting harsh shadows on the packed tiers where faction reps jammed shoulder to shoulder. Holographic banners snapped and flickered above like storm warnings. The council dais hovering on its grav lift, a massive slab that loomed over the crowd like a verdict waiting to crash down. Dockhands crammed the lower rails, their grease-streaked arms crossed tight, while smugglers mingled with merchants in the upper seats, pads buzzing with leaked manifests, whispers turning to growls as the air recyclers labored against the rising heat of bodies pressed close. Vale ascended the podium steps with a predator's prowl, suit hugging his frame crisp, smile flashing confident as he sees the rail, knuckles whitening subtle, a flicker of strain betraying the calm. His guards arrayed behind, armor plates shifting with heavy breaths, pistols holstered but fingers drumming hilts. These, accusations? Smoke from bitter losers. He waved dismissive, voice booming through the amps, leaning in to charm the merchants. I've delivered routes, cargo. Lifeblood for this station. Don't swallow the poison. A few nods rippled upper tiers, but dockhands below muttered darker, fists balling at sides. One loader's jaw grinding visible, eyes locked on Vale like targeting a drone. Down in the lowers, a grizzled mechanic named Jax leaned against the rail, his grease-blackened hands twisting a wrench absent, memories flashing of his vanished brother on one of Vale's runs. He nudged the woman beside him, a cargo handler with scarred knuckles from endless shifts. Hear that? He's spinning it, like always. My bro's freighter. Gone. Poof. After crossing him. She spat to the side, eyes narrowing. Yeah. And those manifests? If they're real, he's done. The crowd's undercurrent swelled, Jax's words spreading like vent leaks, faces hardening as more shared whispers of lost kin and rigged deals. Sable hovered in the aisle gloom, wrist rig pulsing faint under her sleeve. Her breath steadying deep, fingers hovering trigger as the moment crested. She flicked upload sharp. Ledgers erupted across every bulkhead screen, data cascading relentless. 2,147 souls chained in holds, 43 freighters erased from logs, 19 executions stamped final, the Quinn entry pulsing red, parents' names bold. The atrium sucked in breath collective, a dockhand's mug crashing forgotten, liquid globbing slow, fists slamming rails in fury, a woman's knees buckling as her husband's ship ID scrolled. Sobs wrenching free amid the surge. Jax pounded the rail harder, voice rising over the din. Look, that's my brother's haul. 43 missing. He was on number 27. The cargo handler beside him gripped his arm, tears streaking her grime. And mine's sister, executed for resistance. Vale's stamp on it. Murmurs exploded to shouts. Subgroups forming. A cluster of smugglers exchanging nods, one pulling up his pad to cross-check. Matches what I heard. Slaves packed like ore. No way out. The exposure hit visceral, personal stories weaving through the data, turning numbers to faces lost in the black. Lyra forced through the front crush, pulse thundering ears, Nova's hands slick and trembling in hers, the girl's fingers digging crescents into her palm, small body pressed close for anchor. Lyra hit the steps, climbing fast, legs burning, but drive pushing, Nova hauled up behind stumbling, slight. Not numbers, proof. Hear him order it. Thumb jammed play, father's log blasting hall wide. Vale's voice snarling cold. Commanding reactor overload. Quinn thread ends. Spike the core. Seize the helium lanes. Lyra's hand shook, holding the shard high. Tears carving hot, but voice holding steel. Crowd exploding, a mechanic lunging rail. That's my crew's blood, you monster. In the uppers, a merchant named Alara clutched her tablet, face ashen as the log looped. Her own dealings with Vale flashing back, bribes she'd paid for safe passage. She turned to her seatmate, a syndicate runner with hooded eyes. I funded those runs. Stars, what have I done? The runner shrugged weary, but his hand trembled, lighting a synth cig. We all did. But this? Executions? He's finished. Guilt rippled through the wealthier rows, some averting gazes, others standing slow in solidarity, the exposure cracking alliances like hull breaches. Shift hit the lowers hard, dockhands surging barriers, faces warped raw vengeance, veins bulging necks as they roared unified, one man pounding chest with fist. For the vanished, justice! Judges on dais leaned forward stunned, one banging gavel, frantic, drowned in the storm. Quiet, but evidence demands. The gavel cracked, lost. Vale's bodyguards faltered line, one turning away, face ashen, hand dropping pistol hilt like it scalded. Loyalty fraying as the log replayed his boss's damning words. Sable strode full light then, coat shrugging off shoulders, dramatic. Harbor King's sigil flaring vivid on collar, illuminating her set jaw. Gasps detonated louder, crowd reeling stagger. Myths crumbling to woman, a smuggler pointing finger quaking. Rook, she's the damn king! Sable planted feet wide, eyes piercing Vale's crumbling facade. Crown's ledger balances. Your reign crashes today. Vale's composure shattered, face flushing crimson, fists slamming, podium crack, body quivering rage as whispers turned to chants. He vaulted rail savage, charging Lyra down steps, roar ripping throat, arm cocking wild swing. You'll shut up now! Owen exploded from side crowd, barreling intercept, shoulder ramming Vale mid-lunge, impact jarring bones, the punch glancing his cheek with a wet crack. Blood sprayed hot. Owen's grunt pained, but he locked arms iron, twisting Vale back. No blades, no shots. Just grapple hold as ribs scream protest, breath ragged, pain fueling the lock. Over my body, he spat blood dais side, vision blurring but stance unyielding. Crowd surging support. Jacks from the lowers climbed the rail partial, yelling over the fray. Get him, Hale, for all of us. The cargo handler echoed, voice breaking. That's for my sister. Hold him down. Sub-characters wove the chaos. Ilara in uppers standing now, shouting down. Arrest him. The ledgers don't lie. Her seatmate joined reluctant, hand raised. Guilty. Strip his empire. Drones buzzed a swarm instant. Rotors slicing air shrill. Cuffs clamping Vale's wrist weed. Magnetic snap. His kicks flailing air as guards dragged him thrashing. Fabricated traitors, all of you. Voice cracked panic. Face purpling futile rage, body arching against bonds. Guards struggling hold as he twisted wild, one cuff slipping momentary before reseating. Banish! Strip everything! Mics, a judge boomed, gavel thundering final, atrium quaking stomps, assets flashing, seized on screens, ships docking locked in bays below, routes fracturing live as owners bid frantic. Nova front row gripped rail white, eyes huge as saucers, small chest-heaving realization. Rules gnawing flesh deeper than plasma, all flooding her frame as she tugged Lyra's sleeve frantic. Sis. Words broke him. Harder than guns. Lyra hauled her close, arms crushing amid erupting cheers, bodies vaulting rails, strangers clasping shoulders teary victory. Yeah, smart over savage, kid. Jax reached them, clapping Lyra's back hard. You nailed it. My bro's avenged. The cargo handler hugged Nova quick, tears mixing. Little one. You started this with that drone. Cheers peaked, deafening, atrium vibrating. Then Owen raised bloodied hands slow, room hushing instinctive, breaths held ragged. He traced air deliberate, imaginary chalkboard resetting, day one scratched bold. Clean slate, guard it fierce, nods cascaded, a loader echoing fist pump. Day one, locked in. Ilara descended steps, approaching Owen hesitant, hand extended. I enabled him. Sorry doesn't cut it, but thank you. Owen shook gentle, wince hidden. Fix it forward. That's enough. Vale's guards scattered quick. Assets seizing live. Ships impounding bays. Crews scattering feeds as subgroups below chanted low. The mechanic slapped Owen's back hard, ribs flaring but grin splitting bloodied. Took that hit like nothing. Legend move. Owen winced laugh. Rules worth the bruise, I guess. Sable wove throng reclaiming coat. Sigil dimming. Note palmed Owen Swift. Crown steps back. He crumpled at pocket, eyes tracking sisters ahead crush. Nova bounced Lyra excited. Other stations? They'll copy this? Lyra nodded firm, ruffling hair. Spreading already. Watch. Judges dispersed amid flashes. One pausing clasp Owen's arm respect. Your quiet spot. Change the ring. Atrium drained gradual. Lowers linking arms solidarity. Woman wiping tears, whispering group. Ghost rest. Bar rule did it. Owen trailed out, pressing ribs. Winch sharp, but stride proud. Blood crusting, victory pulsing veins. Wind rippled station-wide. Veils snarls, echoing cells distant. Quiet hours whisper boomed galaxy. Rules, weapons, truth the kill shot. Chance sparked corridors low, building. Owen glanced dais fading, imaginary tally blazing. Day one, fire reborn. The council's gavel had barely echoed when the security captain barked orders over the station comms, his voice crackling sharp through every bay speaker. Lockdown on all Vale assets, now! Drones in, seals up, no one touches a crate! Officers swarmed the docks like ants on a spill, mag cuffs snapping on hull ports, data pads flashing as they confiscated manifests and logs mid-transfer. One officer yanking a clipboard from a stunned loader's hands. Hand it over, all of it. A hauler captain, her scarred cheek twitching under the lights, stood frozen on the pad as her ship groaned under the clamps. Crew scattering with duffels slung hasty, one pausing to grip her arm desperate. Cap? What now? 10 years hauling for him. And this? Slaves in the holds. She shook her head slow, eyes on the auction pings lighting her wrist rig. Routes slicing away to new bidders, her voice cracking faint. We scattered like dust, but good riddance. No more blind eyes to those chains. The sailor nodded grim, slinging his bag higher before vanishing into the crowd, the Empire's pieces crumbling in the hum of seizing engines and distant drone whirs. Owen leaned against the corridor wall outside the atrium, ribs aching dull as a council aide approached with a reward chit glowing in his palm. Credits stacked high for the exposure, the aide thrusting it forward eager. Hail, this is yours, bounty for the takedown. Families chipped in too for the lost. Owen waved it off gentle, hand steady despite the twinge shooting his side. Nah, pass it to the ones who lost, folks. Bar's open, that's my cut. The aide blinked surprise, pocketing it with a respectful nod and a quick salute. Your call? But that tally of yours, it's climbing legends. Stations are talking. Owen pushed off the wall, heading back to Hales. Door hissing open to patrons already marking the chalkboard, tally pushing past 500 in the month. Each scratch a quiet cheer as regulars clapped his back, careful around the bruises. Lyra pulled a new face behind the counter mid-shift, a jittery kid fresh off a freighter run, showing him how to mix a gravity drop with a calm twist, her hand guiding his shaky one. The kid spilled the first pour, liquid floating wild left, his face flushing red, stammering, Sorry, hands shake when it's tense. What if I mess up a real one? Lyra steadied his wrist light, voice even and warm. Watch the eyes, not the fists. Pour slow, let him talk it out. You've got this. He tried again. Drink settling perfect on the left wrap. The kid's grin breaking wide as a scuffle at a table cooled with his refill and a nod. Apologies muttered. No board reset. Lyra watched satisfied. Her own lessons from cycles back now passing seamless, patting his shoulder. See? Deflections in art. Keep practicing. Nova hunched over a napkin in the storeroom corner during a lull. Stylus scratching quick. Amber bulb glowing faint over crossed wrenches. Tools meshed like a promise. She held it up to Owen one evening, eyes shining hopeful with that lingering kid spark. For the other spots, like a badge, yeah. Fix instead of fight. Owen took it careful, thumb tracing the lines thoughtful. Print a stack. We'll send 'em out. Good work, short stuff. Word zipped through comms fast. 3 stations pinging requests by week's end. Neutral bars popping up with the same carved rule. Sigils etched on doors like quiet beacons. One outpost coordinator patched in excited. Got your sigil up. First night, no incidents. Nova beamed back over hollow. Keep the tally. It adds up. Sable lingered post-close one dawn cycle. Coat draped over her arm as she nursed a final whiskey. Glass set down empty with a note tucked under, her fingers lingering on the rim a beat. She slipped the hatch without a word, vanishing into the tunnel's red glow. Owen found it at cleanup, unfolding the scraps slow. Some kings abdicate quietly. He read it twice, fingers folding it careful into his pocket, a faint nod to the empty spot. Fair winds. Rook. Debt squared. The bar hummed empty, her absence a quiet shift in the air. But the stool stayed ready. 10 years spun the station rings faster. Nova, stretched tall at 18, ran the neutral network from a level 9 comm hub, screens wrapping her like a cockpit, voice steady over channels as she patched a flare-up on a distant outpost. Hold the line, no draws, talk it through. Sigil's your shield. The coordinator on the other end breathed relief audible. Thanks, a riot almost broke it. Your model's gold. Violence down sharp here. Nova leaned back, reports scrolling green. No red flags, tallies holding across the web, her fingers drumming the desk satisfied. That's the point. Peace by choice. Ethan Cross ducked the door into Hale's one standard shift. Alliance badge tucked low on his jacket, ordering a soda at the counter casual. He eyed the digital tally. 3,250 clicking over as a patron scratched it virtual with a tap. Soda. Plain. And, how's that number climb so steady? What's the trick? Owen poured smooth, sliding it left wrap. People get tired of bleeding? Guess that's it. No trick, just the rule. Ethan sipped thoughtful. Tablet open, but eyes on the room. Former rivals chatting easy, no edges. A ex-enforcer laughing with a cop over old stories. Voluntary. That's rare out here. Lyra, gray weaving her temples like station wiring, smiled soft as Nova's hologram blinked in mid-pour. Reports beaming clean, her voice crackling, light through the static. All quiet. Couple close calls, but sigils held. Missed the broth. Lyra set her glass down, leaning in closer to the projection. Proud of you. Stay sharp and visit soon. The hollow winked out, Lyra turning back to the bar with a content sigh, pouring another for a regular who nodded thanks. Ethan closed his tablet slow, pocketing it with a nod to Owen, ordering another round for the nearby seats, glasses clinking. One more. Learning starts with listening, right? This could change sectors. Owen clinked his water glass, grin faint. Yeah, pull up a stool. Starts with one door. Amber glow. The bar breathed easy, tally advancing tick by tick, patrons sharing quiet toasts. Nova's network sprawled across 12 stations by the next decade, each neutral bar marked by an etched amber bulb glowing steady above doors. Violence metrics dropping 68% in the zones. Reports pinging her hub with clean tallies. One outpost coordinator patched in during a routine check, voice crackling excited over the link as he held up a fresh sigil plaque. Arbiter, your model's a lifesaver. Riot last cycle. Sigil held, no shots, just talks. Nova leaned into her screens, fingers tapping approvals, a proud smile creasing her face. That's the goal. Rules over reigns. Keep scratching those days. She signed off, the coordinator's bulb flickering live on her map, another node in the web. Ethan Cross filed his final report from a quiet corner in Hales, tablet glowing as he typed recommendations galaxy-wide. Adopt voluntary restraint. No occupation needed. He paused mid-sentence, glancing up at the digital tally. Day 417, clicking over smooth. Peace through choice, not force. Ironhaven proved it. Owen nodded from behind the counter, pouring him a refill unasked. Start small. 1 bar, 1 rule. Ethan closed the file with a satisfied tap, pocketing the device. Alliance is listening. Change coming. Owen wiped the same counter nightly, scars faded to faint lines under the amber light, digital board unchanged in spirit, patrons tapping marks themselves, a ritual etched deep. A regular, an old dockhand with a limp from a long-ago scuffle, scratched the tally one close, grinning toothless. Another clean one. Your rules, Ironhail. Owen shrugged easy, but his eyes softened. Everyone's rule now. We just started it. Lyra ran conflict classes in the back room after shifts, former enforcers scribbling notes beside ex-cops, pencil scratching as she demonstrated a deflection pour on a practice tray. One burly ex-enforcer fumbled the mix, liquid globbing up wild. Damn, still got the old habits. The cop across laughed light, steadying the tray. Try words first. Worked on me. Lyra nodded approval, her gray-streaked hair catching the light. That's it. Build, don't break. They practiced until pores floated perfect, apologies exchanged over the mess, class ending with handshakes firm. Nova visited once a year, hauling a crate of new bulbs etched with the latest holding bars' names, placing one on the counter careful, the glass clinking soft. This one's from Ring 12. They turned a war zone neutral in a month. Owen added it to the wall collection, the constellation growing denser. Proud of you, spreading farther than I dreamed. Nova hugged him quick, then Lyra longer, sisters' bond unbroken. Miss the old cot, but the network's home now. A young refugee pushed through the door one cycle, frame thin and eyes darting wary. Clothes patched from vent crawls, hands trembling as he scanned the room. Owen poured broth steaming without a word, sliding it over the counter gentle. Sit. Rules the same here. No questions. The kid gripped the bowl like a lifeline, sipping slow, shoulders dropping gradual, a faint nod of thanks. Lyra watched from the side, pouring a soda next. History rhymes, but we hold the line. The refugee managed a small smile, the cycle turning quieter in the amber glow. Outside, Ironhaven's neon flickered endless against the void, but inside the bulb held firm, patrons coming and going, tallies advancing steady. Ethan lingered post-report, raising his glass to the board. Day 4017, and counting. To the promise anyone can keep. To when glasses clinked around, murmurs echoing agreement, the quiet hours heart beating on, the rule traveling farther than any empire, a whisper turning to galaxy-wide roar. Owen locked up last, digital tally pausing respectful at a patron's final tap. The bar settled dark, amber pulsing soft, ashes long cooled to enduring light. The protocol not a weapon but a choice, anywhere if they chose.